Welcome back, guys. This brochure I took a photo of is an A4 size. It's placed horizontally and it has two sides. So what we're going to do is go to the calculator. We know an A4 paper is 29.7 by 21 centimeters. In this case, the 29.7 side is this one here. And this side here would be 21 centimeters. So we need to divide 29.7 into 2. And that would give us 14.85 centimeters. So let's create a white rectangle. Go to the rectangle tool and select the color. Now click on the artboard to create the rectangle. Set the width to 14.85 centimeters and the height to 21 centimeters. And OK. Move the rectangle around here. And press Ctrl T. And we're going to make the rectangle bigger until it covers all this side. And then OK. The following step is very important in order to make a mock-up template. So right-click here and convert to Smart Object. Double-click on the name here and we'll change it to Mockup 1. This is really important and we'll see why a little bit later. What we need to do now is adjust each one of these points or vertices to this side of the brochure. Also, here we have a slight curve. So we'll place the rectangle here and we'll set the opacity to 60%. Let's move in closer with the zoom. Press Z and click. If you press H, you get the hand tool and you can move around. So again, Ctrl T. And now we'll match the points to the ones on the brochure. If I press Ctrl and hold it down, when I go over a corner like this, see how the cursor changes to white? This means that we can move this corner independently without moving the others. So we'll click and we'll drag to put it into place. We'll do the same on the other side, all the time without letting go of Ctrl. Okay, let's go to the bottom using the hand tool, Ctrl T once again, and hold down Ctrl to adjust the rectangle to the corners. And there we go. Okay. Don't worry if you go over a little, this can be fixed later. Now you see here there's a slight curve, as I mentioned. To fix this, we'll press Ctrl T again, right-click, and we'll select this option, Warp. We get this grid with more points and vertices that we can use to deform or to warp the image. We're going to use it to get the shape of the original photo. So we'll adjust the rectangle to the image we have behind. So let's drag this point to about here. This one around here. Click OK. And you can see how we've achieved that curve that the brochure has. Now we'll make a new rectangle for the other side of the brochure. So let's go back to the rectangle tool and again select white, click on the artboard and we'll give it exactly the same size as the first one, 14.85 by 21 centimeters. Remember, the rectangle needs to occupy all of this area before we can start editing. As we did for the first rectangle, right-click and convert to Smart Object. Double-click on the name to rename it to Mockup 2. Put the opacity back to 100% in Mockup 1, and in Mockup 2, we'll lower it to 60%. Let's zoom in, and we'll go up with the hand tool, Ctrl-T, and then as we did before, press Ctrl and adjust the corners of the rectangle to fit the second side of the brochure. Let's go down. Remember that I'm still holding down Ctrl to move each corner separately. Okay, so we have our corners, but there are a few details, like here, for example, that don't quite fit in with the photo. So let's move in a little closer. And here you see we need to apply a slight curve here on the bottom too. So let's press Ctrl-T, right-click and warp. And let's drag this point to around here. We'll lower this here as well. We need to adjust this point too. If we make a mistake, we can correct it later. And OK. Let's zoom out so we can see how it looks. And it seems fine. Let's set the opacity to 100% to check if we've left any areas out. It seems like we have a little bit. So let's go back to Mockup 2, Ctrl-T. Let's just move in a bit closer. So Ctrl-T and holding down Ctrl, let's just move it this way a little. So we can cover that small gap we have in the middle. Go to Mockup 1 and press Ctrl-T, holding Ctrl, drag this side a little bit this way too. And OK, zoom out, and you can see it looks a lot better now. We can now place the images we're going to use for the mockups. So how are we going to do this? Remember earlier when we converted these two into smart objects, and I told you that was very important. So double-click on Mockup 1, and OK. Now, I created some images for this project. So I'll drag the first image onto the rectangle. So that will be image number 1. Let's make it bigger, more or less like this. Press Shift and Alt to increase the size of the image proportionately. OK. I'm going to give it a new background. I'll give it the same color as the design I placed on it. So I'll grab the eyedropper tool. So I'll choose this color and I'll press G to get the paint bucket tool. I'll go here. And I'll click here to fill with the chosen color. Now go to File, Save. And we can see how it's been applied to our brochure. And if we zoom in though, the edges aren't quite right. I mean, this could look okay, could be the light hitting it from that side. But anyway, if you want to correct it, all you have to do is, in Mockup 1, press Ctrl-T and move this corner slightly. And OK. And again for this one on the other side. And now it does look much more exact. Let's move on to mockup 2. So double click. And now I'll drag the other image, image number 2, onto the rectangle. Increase the size proportionately by pressing Shift and Alt. And OK. I'll create a new layer for the background, and I'm going to paint it with the same colour as before. So that colour is already chosen. I just need to click on the area with the paint bucket tool, File, Save. And now when we go back to the project, our image is there on the brochure. If we zoom in, there is a small white gap in the middle. So let's adjust that. Go to Mockup 2, press Ctrl-T, and drag the corners to adjust the image. I'll adjust this side a little bit as well. Now right-click and warp. Okay, I think just a little bit more here. Okay. And now when we zoom out, you see it's all looking pretty good. The following step is to add some shading so we get this kind of effect here. At the moment, our image still looks quite flat. Adding some shadow will make it look more realistic. So we'll continue in the next lesson. I'll see you there.